Good afternoon, everyone. I, Dr. Manasvi Maheshwari, Associate Professor, Media School, Delhi Metropolitan Education, welcome you all to the 39th episode of the Vibrant India series. I also welcome all our viewers who are watching us live on Facebook. Vibrant India series, VIS, is an initiative of DME Media School for celebrating 75 years of India's independence. This series will be a year-long exercise. As part of this series, we invite inspiring personalities for online talk, interview, and interaction with our students. The invited personalities for this series are from all walks of life and from all parts of the country. And today, our special guest is Mr. Amod Kanth, decorated IPS officer. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
I would like to take a moment and introduce Delhi Metropolitan Education to our viewers. DME is an A-grade premier educational institute affiliated to Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University, New Delhi, and approved by the Bar Council of India. The institute offers BBA, BA LLB, BBA LLB, and BA JMC programs. DME believes in imparting world-class education to its students while training them to develop and enhance their skills. This education and training enables them in taking up challenges of the industry and creating a space for themselves with their competence and vigor. DME Media School is one of the most promising media institutes in the country. It offers BA in journalism and mass communication. It is recognized as a school focused on the growth of its faculty and students through academic and co-curricular activities. Major flagship events and initiatives of the school include BG Varghese Lecture Series, Peer-to-Peer FDP, International Film Festival SIFI, International Conference ICANN, and Ritika Convention of Media Students. And newly added to this list is VIS, Vibrant India series. It is our privilege to introduce you to the personality of today on the 39th episode of VIS. I invite Khushi Srivastava, student of first year BA JMC program, to introduce our guest for the day. Over to you, Khushi.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Amod Kanth is a social scientist, institutional development expert, and known police officer with more than 33 years of experience in the social sector, proactive policing, urban development, pro-poor policy analysis, and advocacy to serve the best interests of the marginalized groups. In the past 19 years, Mr. Kanth has raised a national-level institution, Prayas, as a founder secretary with convergence of government agencies, UN systems, and civil society action groups. From its modest beginning with underprivileged children, this institution has now emerged as a model of good practice with national and international recognition in child development, socio-economic empowerment of the marginalized youth and women. He is an Indian Police Service Officer of 1974 batch, EGMU cadre, and the past 3 assignments being Chief Vigilance Officer of Delhi Jal Board, Director General of Police in the state governments of Goa and Arunachal Pradesh. As an outstanding police officer, he holds a track record of multiple achievements as a nationally known investigator of some of the most difficult and sensational crimes. For combating terrorism and communal forces, narcotic drugs, and human trafficking, and being the recipient of President's Police Medals for meritorious service, distinguished service, and for gallantry. Mr. Kanth has rich experiences in police advocacy, action research, and programming for pro-poor development initiatives in India. His core interest lies in institutional development and cooperation, creating livelihood options, social service, and social action for the vulnerable groups and program management. He has played catalytic roles in promoting various development institutions within and outside the government for social change and socio-economic transformation, women in areas of alternative education, livelihood options, and child protection in the districts of Motihari, Samastipur, Nalanda, Bagha, and Patna, with promotion of local initiatives and participation of the state government.
Thank you you, sir, for joining us today. It is indeed an honor to host you. I now request Dr. Shushmita Bala, Head DME Media School, to welcome the guest. Ma'am.
Thank you, Manasvi. We launched this digital program on August 9 in 2021 on the anniversary of Quit India movement. This is an initiative of DME Media School, Delhi Metropolitan Education. Vibrant India series is an online series to get inspiration from illustrious personalities. This program has been conceptualized and created by Professor Ambrish Saxena. Vibrant India series is a tribute to all those people who have made supreme sacrifices for the independence of our motherland. India will be completing 75 years of independence this year. We started celebrations last year only. This program, VIS, has been launched as a part of these celebrations. 8 personalities from the Defense Forces have participated in VIS till date. These personalities belong to Indian Army, Air Force, and BSF. These include Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, Lieutenant General Vinod Bhatia, Dr. P.K. Saxena, Professor R.K. Dargan, Captain Dhamveer Singh, Group Captain Ashok K. Chordia, and Mr. Virendra Kumar Gaur from BSF. This list includes a woman as well, Squadron Leader Prerna Chaturvedi. In education and science field, 5 personalities from the education sector. These include Professor Ujjwal K. Chaudhary, a global educational visionary, Dr. Nakul Parashar, a veteran promoter of science, Dr. Saurabh Ghosh, an international science researcher, Dr. Dev Aikar, a media educator in the US, and Dr. Gurmeet Singh, a promoter of Hindi in countries like Uzbekistan and Italy. Media and journalism. 4 personalities from the journalism, broadcasting, and entertainment sector have joined the VIS. 2 senior journalists, Mr. Rajesh Badal and Mr. Shambhunath Shukla, have graced this program, while Mr. Sanjay Banerjee belongs to the broadcasting industry. From NGO and social services, 6 personalities from the social sector, and notably, all women have participated in VIS. These include Dr. Monisha Behel, who is working in the Northeast, Dr. Mridula Tandon, a medical doctor working with children, Dr. Mridula Seth, an educationist working on mental health, Ms. Tripti S. Singhal, an entrepreneur and success coach, Ms. Vibha Lakhera, and a social activist from, and Mr. Bhavrin Kandhari, an environmental activist, Padma Shri Jatin Singh Shanti, the founder of Bhagat Singh Sevadal and a Corona warrior. These personalities belong to art and theater and literature. These include Dr. Sachidanand Joshi from Indira Gandhi National Center of Arts, Mr. Arvind Gaur from Asmita Theatre Group, and Mr. Lakshmi Shankar Bajpayee, an eminent poet and broadcaster, Mr. Aditya Arya, an eminent photographer and director of law and human rights. 2 personalities from the field of law and human rights have graced the VIS sessions. These include Mr. Manoj Kumar Sinha, Director, the Indian Law Institute, and Ms. Jyotika Kalra, women rights activist and member of NHRC. From the other fields, Mr. S.P. Rawal, author and philanthropist, Mr. Augustine Valad, communication specialist from UNICEF, Sufi Sayyid Azmal Nizami, custodian of Sufi Dargah Nizamuddin Aulia, Mr. Ashok Pradhan, IAS and Director, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, Mr. Balindu Sharma Dadhiji, Director, Local Languages and Accessibility in Microsoft, Mr. Rajendra Singh, former AC Delhi Police, celebrated have also participated in VIS. So today we have our guest Amod Kanth, and he is a very known personality in this series, and he is serving as a in Prayas Foundation. So welcome, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I request Dr. Amrit Saxena, Dean DME Media School and originator of VIS, to address the gathering and take the program forward. Over to you, Saxena, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Manas. So obviously it's a matter of great pride for us, though this 39 series, 39th episode of this series, and a lot of eminent personalities have joined this program. But then Mr. Amod Kanth is a very exceptional person who has been working in varied fields. When I say varied field, means he is essentially a police officer, but then his work is beyond that. And when he was serving as an IPS officer, that time also he was known to handle all such cases which for any other person it was difficult to handle. And thereafter he started working for children, and we all know that this Prayas NGO that he has founded has done exceptional work for children. So we owe to him, the society owe to him for the kind of work that he has been doing. And we are obliged that he has accepted, despite so much hectic schedule that he has, to be with us today in this program. And if I can tell you in very brief, in 3-4 lines about the program. This is a program wherein we invite inspirational personalities, and to begin with, in the second segment of this program, and after this, we invite the guests to come on the screen and then talk to the student and narrate their life journey. So this is something which I've been interacting with many distinguished people. People find it difficult as to how to narrate his or her own journey. But the whole objective behind this, when the things are coming from the horse's mouth, one who has actually done the work, and then with all those problems and the challenges which that person would have faced, and then how all those problems were overcome, and how the headway was made, and how the required was done for the society. That is something from where the inspiration comes. So I would request you, Mr. Kanth, that also narrate your own experiences, and then also all those anecdotes which might be interesting to the students, because this is a young lot. The majority of the students, obviously, they are in the age bracket of 19 or 20 years, they are the bachelor's student. So they might not be having that kind of exposure which the seniors or the younger generation, the seniors and the people of my generation might be having. So they can get something from there, so that if they adopt those kind of traits, those kind of characteristics, or those kind of motivational history, which is necessary not only for their own growth, but for contributing to society and for taking the nation forward. Following that, I will be putting up certain questions based on whatever you would have narrated, or some more to know something more, to have more clarifications, certain counts. And then there are students who will be putting up some questions to you. And that is all about this program. So I will request Mr. Amod Kanth to you to please take over from here and narrate to us your life journey.
So thank you very much. First of all, I must thank Manaswi and Khushi for giving my introduction and to initiating the program. Dr. Ambrish, Saxena, well, you are the honored dean of the institution, and I must thank DME Media School and Delhi Metropolitan Education, this university, part of IP University, for organizing this wonderful program, and Shushmita Bala, She narrated, gave out the list of those eminent personalities, those very interesting characters, some of whom I have known so well, who have participated in this program in the past. And this being the 39th episode, as you call it, for this so-called Vibrant India series. I mean, very, very interesting, I must say. It's something which will definitely add a lot of value to the kind of programs we are carrying out today in our 75th year of independence. I think this program is very apt, and this university is very thoughtful in carrying out this kind of program. Well, friends, someone like me, who has led several lives together, the special feature of my life has been, if I am supposed to talk about my life and work as you say I should, then the most important feature happens to be that I led several parallel lives. You know, not exactly one kind of life as a policeman, the other kind of life maybe as a social worker, the third kind of life as a family man, as someone who looked after family, as someone who deeply interacted with variety of people who came in our contact. Well, I think at this stage of life, people like me, we start looking back also at times. And when we look back, these youngsters who are listening to me, their values, their thought process, their imaginations, their aspirations, they become the primary concern. Sushmita Bala is here. And well, suddenly I'm reminded of another Sushmita. That is the famous Miss Universe, you know, who was the first Miss Universe of India, Sushmita Sen. Yesterday, by chance, I was listening to her in some program was going on. I heard Sushmita, who became Miss Universe in 1994, exactly 28 years back. Then she was hardly 18, and she was the first Miss Universe. A brilliant girl, I must say, from those times. But one thing that struck me about what she was saying while accepting this great honor, Miss Universe honor, she said that she has two kinds of faces. One is a public face, the other is a private face. I mean, she said it. I'm talking 28 years back. And that made me think, because my way of thinking is very different. I'm not like Sushmita Sen by any standard. She was Miss Universe. I'm something very different. Maybe as a young 18-year, she might be thinking that it is very important to conceal her private face and to give out only the public face of it, because my world is different. In fact, today, friends, as I told to you that since I have led parallel lives, which are very different types of life, my main concern today, my main concern past couple of years has been how to put them together, how to combine these two different types of life. You know, exactly 34 years back, I started Prayas. 1988. And while I was in the middle of my career, by then I had done about 14, 15 years service as a police officer. And for nearly 20 years, that is 1988 to 2008, you know, I was doing a very, very hardcore policing, extremely hardcore policing, all the rough and tumble of policing, all the heat and dust of policing, all the violence of policing, all that was going on. And I was in the midst of my most trying, most difficult times. That is what I did 1988 onwards. And simultaneously, as destiny will dictate my course of life, my course of action, an organization I started on a particular occasion. And that organization was decidedly the softer side of the social side of human, something, you know, which I was supposed to be doing good to people, somewhere I was supposed to understand the grief, the pang, problems, the issues concerning the children, the women, marginalized kind of people. So two apparently different look lives, the life of a man, the life of a social worker. I think ordinarily people would think that these two lives are irreconcilable. It is not possible to combine. So my challenge, friends, has been how to combine the two. And let me inform you today, well, while I don't agree with Sushmita Sen's logic that there has to be a public face and there has to be a private face, I think public face and private face can be the same. There is no need for having public face and private face. You know, these youngsters who are listening to me, 18 years and 19-year types, the youngsters, in fact, my first advice to them would be, don't conceal your private face. Your private face has to be your public face also. Don't agree with Sushmita Sen way back in 1994 while she was just about 18. You might be more thoughtful. Well, I'll talk about it later, but then first of all, I'll talk about my own dilemma, the dilemma of leading two different lives together. how it happened, why it happened. I think broadly I'll talk about it. Friends, first of all, let me tell you that my entry in the police itself was as a reluctant cop. I wasn't someone cut out for becoming a policeman. I wasn't someone who was keen to become a policeman. I recall the days when I did my master's in history, and my life's desire and ambition was to be a teacher. In fact, like you guys are here teaching. And I really wished to be a teacher, and that was my really call of life, according to my understanding. But something happened. I was a very, very bad examiner, a terribly bad examiner. So what used to happen that I suddenly run away from the examination hall. While I was doing my graduation in a very remote place of Bihar, Muzaffarpur, in college called Langat Singh College, what happened that three papers I appeared, and the fourth paper I suddenly disappeared. I ran away because I thought I was doing too badly, because in those times it was all mugging and vomiting on the answer sheets, in the sense that you are supposed to be a rote learner, not today the creative kind of learning. So I thought that I was doing very bad while I was appearing in the exams, and fourth paper I ran away. So in a way I lost 1 year in the graduation. Later I learned that I had secured the highest marks in the university in those three papers, and it was a mistake. It happened. Now, subsequently, while I was doing my master's from Patna University, let me inform you, friends, the very first day of the exam, I ran away. So I was there with a zero. I had my mark was zero in first paper. In those times, in the masters, there used to be 8 papers. So I got 0 in one paper, 7 papers I could not compensate. So what happened? My life's ambition to become a lecturer was demolished. I could not become a lecturer in Patna University. So something happened, and I traveled to Jamshedpur, a city which was not really known for academics. It's a city of workers. It's a city of steel. So there I went, and somebody got me a teaching job in a college called Cooperative College, where I taught for about a year. That particular 1 year was almost a life-turning exercise for me. I was very popular. Boys and girls loved me a lot. I loved them equally. And I wanted to be a lecturer, continue to be a lecturer. But soon thereafter, there was another twist in the story. And in those times, what they used to do, that they will give a break in your service so that you don't claim that kind of job again. So this being a very good college funded by Tatas, they wanted to give a break. When they gave a break, then along with 7 of my colleagues, 7 young lecturers, at the age of 23, I decided to open a college. And let me inform you, friends, that I became an officiating principal at the age of 23. And that college was located somewhere between Chaibasa and Jamshedpur. And it was a college for the tribals, because I wanted to teach the tribals, become part of them. Those were the times when the Naxalite movement was raising all over, and it had started, and which still continues to be there in the same areas, that is Jharkhand, where I happen to be working through Prayas also. So that is how it all happened, and I got into the police as a police officer. The job as a policeman for 34 years has been very eventful. I think either Rashmi or Manasvi talked about my career. I had decidedly an extremely eventful career, not only because I was the recipient of most of the gallantry and meritorious and distinguished service medals, but for the reason that it was very, very eventful. If you look at my profile as a policeman, you will find that I had the opportunity to investigate and let's say deal with some of the most eventful situations in the history of India. In fact, some time back, my memoirs, police memoirs, have been published by Bloomsbury. And the first volume is called Khaki in Dust Storm, in which I have talked about 1980s and little about background also. Very briefly stated, in the police, number one, 1984 riots, in which 3,000, our brothers, 6 were killed, sisters were killed. It was a terrible time. And as Deputy Commissioner of Police, Central Delhi, various people thought that I was able to contain the riots to a certain extent. I got a gallantry award there. And of course, around the same time in 1980s, we had a spate of killings. Lalit Makan, the ebullient member of parliament, was killed. Arjun Das, very close to Gandhi family, was killed. General A.S. Vaidya, who had led Operation Blue Star, was killed. And then as a police officer, for those 5 long years, I happened to be Deputy Commissioner of Police Crime of Delhi. All these cases I handled. And because of that, I was taken to this Chennai, that is, it was the, I think Madras that time, because I joined CBI meanwhile. And there I was made to investigate Rajiv Gandhi assassination case. You might be knowing that just now stories are going about Pirarivalan, who has been released by the Supreme Court of India just now, one of the persons who was given death sentence in those times. So considering these kind of cases, and subsequently while I was in CBI, in the economic offenses in those times, the most important cases like Hawala case, then Harshad Mehta's cases, variety of cases. Recently, when I was Joint Commissioner of Police, I investigated cases like Jessica Lal case and BMW case. Charles Sobraj escape also, that case I investigated. In fact, they have made a movie called Main or Charles. In fact, Main happens to be Amod Kanth and Charles is Charles, of course, Charles Sobraj. So this is the kind of cases, these are the kinds of investigations I carried out. So I was privileged. I was extremely privileged as a policeman to have handled these things. So 34 years of police work was remarkable. It was indeed very satisfying. Not for the reason that as a policeman, I did encounters which were false. Something like happening in Hyderabad, for example. You must have heard about the false encounter where the Supreme Court has indicted 10 policemen for having killed those 4 persons who happened to have raped, a young veterinarian. So these are not the kind of policing I did. Decidedly, my policing was harsh. Decidedly, I did hard-hitting policing. Decidedly, I had a police which could be called masculine also many a times. But I was absolutely against any kind of wrongdoings in the police. I had my own values, my own systems, which I had perhaps borrowed from the time when I was a young boy, when perhaps I wanted to become a lecturer and lecture alone. And those good thoughts of becoming an academician perhaps percolated in my police job also. So this is one part of it, which is very important. Now, while I was in the middle of my career, less than middle of my career, there was an incident. I think that was 1988. See, there was a big fire in a place called Jahangirpuri. You must have heard Jahangirpuri. It is being talked about these days. The riots have taken place in Jahangirpuri. We have a huge project in Jahangirpuri. So 1988, one morning while I was at my home, I got a call from the home of the then Lieutenant Governor of Delhi. It was Air Marshal H.L. Kapoor. Air Marshal Kapoor, who was a very active and most available kind of Lieutenant Governor who liked me a lot. He told me to come to Jahangirpuri because there was a big fire. In fact, I told the Honorable Lieutenant Governor that why should I go? Because it's not a case of any crime or law and order. It's a case of a big fire. And why don't you take the Chief Fire Officer? He said, Amod, you have to come along. Chief Fire Officer might come separately, but you have to come along. Destiny at times calls you. I'm not a believer. I'm a bit of an agnostic in my thought process, but then destiny calls you at times. And that morning, it was a holiday, Sunday perhaps, and I went to Jahangirpuri, and nearly 1,000 houses were gutted. In those times also in Jahangirpuri, there used to be rag pickers families, large number, thousands of them. And they used to burn out very fast in the case of fires, and there was a fire. So these, when we saw so much of devastation through this fire in Jahangir, maybe hundreds of children could be found on the street, no place to go, they became homeless. So a thought came to me. I thought, why not do something for that? Why not start some kind of activity for them? H.L. Kapoor was a very, very sensitive person. He understood and he said, Amod, you are being slightly different than what you are. So what are you thinking? I told him, sir, if you give me a small space in this slum area, maybe I'll start an institution or do something for these children. He called his secretary and told, give to Amod whatever he wants. And a small 25 square yard kind of small flat, LIG flat, low income group flat was given to me. And then and now, I think 34 years later, the organization has grown. Prayas has grown as an organization. So the very, very start of this organization, the very origin of this organization was a pure chance. In fact, I say that voluntary organizations, they happen to start with a crisis. They are mostly the outcome or the product of certain kind of disaster, certain kind of crisis, certain kind of accidents. These are the kind of situations which create the voluntary organizations, and rightly so. Because we are supposed to be helping those people who are deprived, who are poor, who are helpless, who are victims of crisis, who are results of disasters. These are the kind of people who are supposed to be helped by the organizations like Prayas. So it started growing from there. I had no idea I had no thoughts, I had no vision, I had no understanding. I wasn't a social worker at all. I was a practicing policeman. But that time, soon thereafter, when I started this organization, 3 organizations joined hands. And one, Delhi Police, because I was from Delhi Police, Delhi School of Social Work, because I used to go there at times. I had some friends who were professors, and Delhi School of Social Work joined as a kind of partner in this activity. And the third organization used to be Shramik Vidyapit. This was perhaps in those times the solitary skill development project or scheme of Government of India. And Vidyapit subsequently, many years later, became Jan Shikshan Sansthan. I'll talk about it later. So these 3 organizations, I put them together. It became kind of a partnership of organizations, and Prayas started growing from those times, 1989. It got registered as a society. Then a very humane kind of policeman who looked after the organization. From then and now, again, let me inform you, friends, another very, very humane ex-policeman, ex-police officer, who was also Commissioner of Police, Mukund Bihari Kaushal. He happens to be our president today. In between, we had Shatrughan Sinha as our president several years. We had Dr. Karan Singh, the famous Dr. Karan Singh, who was years. And another very important person, the great singer, the greatest Ghazal singer of India, that is Jagjit Singh, who was our president for several years. So Prayas has that kind of growth and that kind of character in past 34 years. So it has far and wide. The point I am trying to make, friends, that each one of you, the youngsters listening to me, or those people around, anybody can start and do these kind of things which I did. The creation of Prayas and the growth of Prayas is nothing so extraordinary as people think. As I said, that in past 34 years, it has been growing as it has been responding to the felt needs of the society. We started off with a little child protection, the children who were traumatized by the crisis. We started giving them education program. We started feeding them. In fact, I used to give them bath. I used to look after them when I used to go every Saturday to Prayas in Jahangirpuri in those times. We had no money at all. In fact, in 1988, I started Prayas, and my first bank account opened 3 years later. When I got a piece of land, which has now become a huge kind of institution in Jahangirpuri, I had no money at all, 25,000 rupees, some money which I put from my own pocket. And that's how they started going. So starting from, let's say, the child protection, the protection of those who were traumatized kind of children, to their education and life skills, which was really required, to give them shoes, to give them clothes, to feed them, to look after them, the basic nutrition for them. That's how it started going. Then we created a big home for the children in the same area, Jahangirpuri. If you visit Jahangirpuri sometime, you'll find that very impressive institution which we are running since those times. And then, of course, the activities like skill development project and life skill projects and all that stuff, because the Shramik Vidyapit was essentially for skill development, was a vocational training kind of program. In those times, we had none, as I told. So with the passage of time, I am saying that during 1989 to this date, 33 years later, Prayas has grown far and wide. I can keep on talking about Prayas, endless stories. I can keep on talking about the police also, endless stories. But I would like to conclude on this point. I do not know how much I have to speak. Perhaps 15, 20 minutes. So yes. Please give me a signal. Professor Saxena, just give me a signal. I'll stop immediately. Yeah. Now, the issue is that the organization, as it obtains today, for example, today Prayas has 164 centers and units in 10 states of India. And then we are served by nearly 700 full-time professionals. Not many organizations have so many co-workers. Our projects are far and wide, starting from Arunachal Pradesh, where I served as DG Police also many years back. In Arunachal, we are running 5 community health centers and primary health centers and sub-centers. In a particular area of operation in the district of Namsai and Lohit, 2 districts of Arunachal Pradesh. Arunachal is a fascinating place, but very, very kind of remote. So these 5 various health programs, in which we almost completely look after the health needs of very, very neglected kind of youth, children, and the communities. There we are running this program, which is under National Health Mission, National Rural Health Mission, NRHM, Ministry of Health, Government of India earlier. And let me inform you, friends, that health is not our specialization, but then we have been able to transform the health profile of the people in that kind of area, which is very important. Bihar, you come to Bihar. Bihar, we have got major projects. Maybe about 125 to 130 people are working in Bihar full time. Then come to Jharkhand. As I told you that Jharkhand was the place I started my career as a lecturer. And Jharkhand, we have got several projects of Prayas, very interesting projects of Prayas. Then of course, talk about Delhi, because Delhi, we have got a lot of projects and activities. I would not like to talk about each state and each center. I would like to talk about Andaman Nicobar Islands. I would like to talk very briefly about Gujarat. In Andaman, when tsunami took place, that was the time I used to be the DG police of Goa just before that. And I had a very big battle with the chief minister. So I was thrown away from Goa. I was sitting, cooling my heels in Delhi in the home ministry, and took place the huge tsunami on various coasts of India, including Andaman Nicobar Islands. So I offered to the home minister that time, allow me to go to Andamans and do some work on behalf of Prayas. I wasn't exactly allowed by the home minister, but I went there along with Meera Kumar. Meera Kumar, that time, this very well-known lady who was a speaker later, and then she was the Minister of Social Justice. So she took me and both of us went to Andaman, and Andaman Nicobar Islands, we started the first major program for the children, that is Childline 1098. And before that, we had already started Childline in Jahangirpuri, as I mentioned. So that is how it is. So now today, if you look at Prayas, you will find that Prayas is running 38 homes and shelters, which means about 4,000 to 5,000 children, the adult homeless, the women who are in grave crisis, the victims of trafficking, the victims of child abuse, the victims of child labor, the victims of all kinds of exploitations, those kind of children, those kind of girls and women, and those kind of adult homeless are living, and they are taking the services of Prayas shelters and homes that is there. We are running nearly 60 centers of vocational training, which is very important, because right in the beginning, we started off with vocational training programs, and these vocational training programs day to day serve maybe about 10 to 15,000 youth from the marginalized background. We don't serve anybody who is affluent. We don't serve anybody who happens to be even middle class or higher than middle class. Our entire concentration is towards the lower middle class and the lower than that. So that is where we are. Through these 60 centers, which includes 5, let's say, societies or the entities of Jan Shikshan Sansthans, we are on an average looking after trying to give vocational training of all types to nearly 15,000 youth and women. And majority of them definitely find their life being different. We pick up those who are illiterate or semi-literate, who happen to be not at all well off, and then we train them vocationally. We try to provide them jobs. We try to help them with certain kind of seed funding, and they find their way in life. So that's very, very important. And of course, I told you all about it. So the entire kind of this range of activities of Prayas, as you can see it in past 34 years, has grown from step to step, from need to need, from challenge to challenge, and we are there as of now, as I mentioned to you. So Prayas has become an organization of certain repute. And incidentally, Niti Aayog has got a body called Standing Committee of Civil Society Organizations. So Prayas has the honor, and I have the honor of having served as, and presently I'm serving like a joint member coordinator for that Niti Aayog's Standing Committee for the leading voluntary organizations of the country. Among other places recently where we had a chance to work is Kashmir. Kashmir being very challenging and full of problems, we decided to work in Kashmir, and I have been frequently going to Kashmir. There are 60 organizations, voluntary organizations of Kashmir, who are working with us. I am deeply connected to the Kashmir University. In fact, whenever I go to Kashmir, I interact with the youth. I address the faculty and the teachers and the students of Kashmir University. So Kashmir is one of the areas where we operate. So I don't think I need to speak more about Prayas. I need to speak more about police. I would like to conclude, in fact, in maybe next couple of minutes time, because I'm sure you guys will ask questions. Now, the life as it goes, to my understanding, has to be it should not be one directional. It should not be one dimensional. The life has to be essentially multidimensional. The life has to be something where you have got all types of experiences, all types of activities being woven together. So I feel that the indivisibility of life, the life which is not divided in compartments, the life where you don't think in one particular direction and end up there, or perhaps think in other direction, end up there, and you're not able to amalgamate them, that kind of life is no good. In my opinion, the life has to be something where you are able to combine things together and live one life while agreeing, strongly disagreeing with Susmita Sen of 18 years, 28 years back. I would like to say that there is no need to have public life and private lives. I mean, certain things you have to keep private, there's no doubt about it. Everybody has a private life. There are a lot of physical needs, a lot of emotional needs, a lot of activities which really make you think as a private person. I have nothing against that. But the moment you are with the people, the moment you are out, let's say in the family, the moment you are out in the community, you are in an institution, you are on the street, you are in a situation where society, you have to interact with the society. I think there's a need that you develop certain kind of philosophy, certain kind of understanding where you can present yourself whatever you are. There's no need to conceal, there's no need to make life into divisions and partitions and compartments. That is how I look at the whole situation. For a policeman to be like this was also not easy, especially a policeman like me who worked into extremely sensitive assignments. You know very well that these big cases, these cases of counterterrorism, these cases of drugs, and these cases of very serious economic offenses involving very, very important people, it is not possible to keep everything open. So decidedly, you don't compromise on confidentiality. All those things are there. But decidedly, at the same time, you should be able to present yourself whatever you are. So I'm here with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Amod Kanji. One very interesting question is coming to my mind with the topic with which you started, because these are the young people who are studying journalism and mass communication, and our relationship, the relationship of teachers with the students is always stuck on one point, that I mean, how much they should pay attention to attending classes, how much serious they should be taking up their exams, and how much they should be serious about thinking about their careers and all. So going by your example, and if I ask this question to you today, how much importance you attach to teaching, or from the student's perspective, from the classroom studies or outside classroom studies, or the importance of the examination or planning about the career and all, how will you look at this phenomena, looking back as to what you did and looking at the present scenario, the way the things have changed? What would you suggest to these young people?
Dr. Saxena, I think you have hit the nail. And this is the main issue today. That's the most important issue, where people like us, again, I'm saying people like us because I'm not like you, I'm different. We look at the system from a distance, but we have been through the system also. See, as I told you that I started off and I was a Hindi medium person till graduation. Till graduation, I was a Hindi medium person. I mean, I learned speaking English, I learned writing English through various kind of situations much late in the life. And then those schools and colleges were not exactly considered to be so good way back in remote places in Bihar. But then the value of teacher, the value of teaching, I knew even then, even in a small place like Motihari, where I worked, studied in Murshid Singh College. I cannot forget the most effective teachers still happened to be my Avdesh sir, who was my history teacher, and the brilliant orator that he was. I can't forget. And then, of course, so all these years, I have recollected them, because teachers are the ones who really can impart you something that you deserve to know. You can't learn unless you are taught. You can't learn unless somebody tells you what exactly is there. And teaching and telling is not only about the books, it's about life. It's about surrounding circumstances. The point I'm trying to make, that today with the new education policy, which I have carefully read, let me inform you, the new education policy, or the National Education Policy 2020, is going to turn around and should turn around the entire method of education. Because just sitting in the class or just getting glued to certain kind of textbook is not giving solutions. The world has changed so far. I mean, we have been participants of different types of worlds, all right. Perhaps it wasn't so valid in my times, 30 years, 40 years back, but today it's most valid that you cannot go ahead unless you are able to understand the world around you. So the teacher or the academic institution, if it is not able to relate itself to the world around itself, if it is not able to consciously develop or deliberately catch upon the changing faces of learning, life, and education, I think it will fail. So that is where we are, that decidedly the classroom is not the end of it. The textbook is not the end of it. And now you have got the options in the new education policy. You have got all types of options of entry and exit. You can become a carpenter, an electrician, and also acquire a degree in, let's say, political science. So this is something which is very interesting. And I think this change needs to be imbibed. Okay.
Yeah. Mr. Kanth, another question which is coming to my mind, because you refer to this Hyderabad encounters, and that encounter is not the lone thing which is happening in India. Earlier also encounters were happening. Today also the encounters are happening. Like in UP also during the last 4-5 years, a lot of encounters have happened. And also you used a term masculine policing and the harsh policing. So if you can tell these young people, whichever capacity they will be working, and I believe these young people who are there in this session, many of them will be working as journalists tomorrow. So what kind of understanding you can give these young people about policing, given your experience and given the kind of references that you made just now?
I think this is plain and simple murder, nothing else. The Honorable Supreme Court has very appropriately accepted it. In fact, one of the members, D.R. Karthikeyan, who happens to be in this committee, was my senior. He was my boss while I was investigating Rajiv Gandhi case. And now if they say this, I mean, on the face of it, the Hyderabad encounter was a killing. On the face of it, recently, one fellow who was killed in UP, the case I'm referring to, who might be a Don, who might be a known Gunda, but then he was killed like being killed in broad daylight. I'm aware of many, many cases of encounters. These encounters are nothing but murder. It's very clear. And the issue is that, look at my life, look at my kind of background. I'm very sure, absolutely certain that I did not allow, I did not participate, I did not permit a single case of encounter throughout my career. False encounter, I'm saying. I had an encounter myself. There was a particular encounter in which a big event took place. 9 persons suffered gunshot injury, 5 died. I came out of it and I got a gallantry award for that particular incident. The incidents may come in life. The incidents may occur. If they occur by themselves, and you get involved into some encounter, which is a genuine encounter, it is very, very difficult. It's a very difficult situation. But then killing people like that is totally wrong. Here, friends, I would like to tell one thing which is very important. I think I wanted to speak about it. In my office here, there is a very big original thing of Constitution of India. That is the book I keep always the same size. The Indian Constitution, while we were studying in the college, we thought it was a patchwork. We thought it was a cut and paste affair, borrowed from UK, borrowed from France, borrowed from USA. But today we feel that nothing can be more valuable than the Constitution of India. It has become the beacon. It has become the light. It has become the source of legality and, of course, everything which is proper, which might happen properly in this country. And if you believe in Constitution of India, these kind of things are decidedly wrong. Have trust in Constitution. Okay.
Now, one final question from my side. I would like to ask, since you have been working so passionately for children and in Prayas for the last 34 years, and the way you have expanded your activities, and as you told us, and we already know the kind of work that you are doing in the cases of child abuse, as you said, the victims, and then to educate them, to train them, to impart them skills and all. But what would you like to suggest the young people, what kind of contribution these young persons can make for the cause of children?
Well, I think it's only to extend your hand. It's only to extend yourself. this country is very strange, full of contradictions. As you know, that India is 5th largest economy on the one side, 3rd most powerful military militia we have. And this happened to be 131st in the human development indicators. We are very, very poor. I think nearly 1/4 of India's population is below poverty line. So there is no dearth of situations. Friends, I think if you want to serve anyone, if you want to contribute anything to the society, if you want to give it back for whatever you have, for example, you need not go away, go far. On the street, in your neighborhood, around the place you live and work, you'll find all types of people whom you can support. As I mentioned to you, that I never had a big imagination or dream about creating Prayas or developing it. I'm just saying that be conscious of your surroundings, be slightly empathetic, be slightly friendly, and try to understand. Don't close your eyes, don't close your heart, and understand people around you. If you are able to understand, if you're able to empathize, if you're able to look at your neighbor, look at your surroundings a little more compassionately, you'll start doing yourself. You'll not be asked to do. It is very important. Okay.
Moving on, there are many students, Mr. Kanth, who want to ask questions to you. So to start with Manaswini Srivastava, please ask your question.
So my question is that you earlier said that you saw your colleague member being killed. So how do you calm yourself and how did you manage to cope up with that trauma?
See, all of us can feel very sad. All of us can be traumatized. All of us can get scared also. In fact, don't think that I was really a brave person from no standard. I always thought that I was among the, not the coward, but then I was very, very apprehensive about things. But then when you are on the call of duty, when you're doing a particular thing that you're supposed to do, then you have to create that kind of mind and that kind of determination, which doesn't come from outside, but from within, which makes you accept, which makes you tolerate. You can't start crying, you know. You can't get totally upset about a situation, so upset that you're not able to operate in a given situation. Let me tell you that the army officer or the army man who gets killed on the border, it is less for the reason that he was very brave. The patriotism is something, you know, which comes out of drill, which comes out of discipline. He cannot come back. See, somebody is in border, the fight is going on. He cannot look back, he cannot come back because that person happens to be in a drill. So you have to drill yourself, you have to make yourself mentally so disciplined and so drill oriented that even if it means dying, it comes to you and you accept it. Do you understand that?
Yeah. So next question will be by Ishika Shaw.
Good afternoon, sir. Myself, Ishika Shaw. And my question to you is, did you ever face any pressure from political leaders and how did you handle that? Can you narrate that incident?
Many, in fact, but then there are so many, there's no time to narrate, but I'll just tell you one very small thing that most of the time I worked in Delhi. Delhi has its own kind of political pressure. I was in CBI, Central Bureau of Investigation, huge political pressure. But I had encountered with 3 chief ministers. In the beginning of my career, I was SSP, ASP Pondicherry. I was thrown away by the chief minister. Towards the end of my career, 2 assignments, I was thrown away by the chief minister of Goa. And the last assignment, I tried to do some police reforms, which was the order of Supreme Court of India in 2006. My chief minister was very impressed and very happy with me. But when I carried out that reform, through certain things which he didn't understand, he saw to it that I was thrown away. So all the 3 chief ministers saw to it that I was thrown away, but then I'm not uncomfortable. I always thought that the politicians have their own way. They have a right to influence. They have a right to pressurize you. Even the opposition politician, a small politician, big politician, after all, they are the masters. They are the bosses, and they have a right to influence you. But it is your duty to go according to law, according to system. I did that. And if I suffered, I have no issues. After all, we belong to All India Service and I can go anywhere. So I kept on traveling. So no issues. If one doesn't compromise on these things and you are not upset by, let's say, small hardships, I don't think it really matters. You understand? Okay. Thank you.
So
Thank you.
next question will be by Priya Yadav. Priya, ask your question.
सर गुड आफ्टरनून सर मेरा
Good
क्वेश्चन आपसे ये था कि आपने डिफरेंट एरियाज में वर्क किया, एज पुलिस ऑफिसर भी वर्क किया एंड एज अ सोशल वर्कर भी। सर इन दोनों ही मतलब पोजीशंस में, इन दोनों ही एरियाज में वो कौन सा आपको एक एक्सपीरियंस लगा जो बहुत टफ था अभी तक आपके लिए?
मैं समझता हूँ कि सोशल वर्कर या जो काम मैं आज कर रहा हूँ, जो काम मैं करता रहा इतने साल से, ये पुलिस से ज्यादा टफ है। ज्यादा टफ इसलिए है कि पुलिस में दो बातें थी। एक तो कानून के मुताबिक आप काम कर रहे हैं, जो मैंने अभी कहानी कही कानून की और काम करने की। तो अगर आप, वो आपके लिए एक हथियार भी है कानून, और आपके लिए एक कवच भी है। मैं दोनों बात कहता हूँ, कानून कवच है, कानून हथियार है। तो दैट प्रोटेक्शन वाज देयर and that kind of strength was there as a policeman at a senior position, as an IPS officer. That position was there. जहां तक सोशल वर्क की बात थी, यू आर ऑलवेज एट द रिसीविंग एंड। बल्कि मैं कहता हूं कि भाई किसी भी एक सोशल वर्कर की कैपेसिटी में विथ ए बेगिंग बॉल आई हैड नो डिफिकल्टी। इनफैक्ट लोगों ने, शायद ही कोई ऐसा हो, अब तो धीरे धीरे लोग मेरी बात को समझ गए, प्रयास, बड़ी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हो गई। लेकिन जब ये नहीं थी और जब हम उस प्रोसेस में थे, तो करीब करीब अधिकतर समय लोग हमको अवॉइड करते थे। उनको पता है कि आमोद कंठ पुलिसमैन के तौर पे आ रहा है तब तो ठीक ठाक है, अगर ये प्रयास की वजह से आ रहा है तो कोई दिक्कत है। यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट? इसलिए यहाँ पे सोशल वर्क मैं समझता हूँ कि पुलिस के काम से बहुत ज्यादा डिफिकल्ट है, जबकि दोनों में मुझे काफी डिफिकल्टीज फेस करनी पड़ी। दोनों के मैंने बड़ी गहराई से एक्सपीरियंस किया। ठीक है।
So then we move ahead towards the end of this program, and as Mr. Amod Kanth said, that as he himself is a multifaceted personality, and he told us in this session that one has to be multidimensional, and you need to learn how to work in multi directions, how to do parallel things at one at the same time. Incidentally, I and many of my teachers are of the same kind. We try to do so many things like this. This particular program, VIS, is an example of this.
I know it's an example. It's a very good example, Will. Very good example. Yes.
So we try to do, I mean, beyond what is actually expected to do from us. Any such thing we are always ready to take up, which is for the growth of these young people, because the tomorrow rests on these young people only. So whatever we can do to their benefit, we are for that. So I completely agree with you. And for these young people also, we as teachers also keep on telling that don't remain yourself confined to classroom and all. Outside classroom, take up the kind of things that you can do, which will contribute to towards your own growth and towards the growth of your fellow beings and society. So that's one great thing that you did, that you said. And the important thing that you said, that the role of the teachers that you underlined, that is, I believe that is young people, young students will understand. They will listen more to us, and we will be finding it more convenient to do the things that we are trying to do. Another important thing which I picked up from whatever you said in such a long address, that is respect to the Constitution. I personally have studied Constitution thrice. Once in my MA Political Science, then in my LLB, then in my LLM. So I know that how much Constitution is important for all Indians, for all the citizens. And if we understand the spirit of the Constitution, and if we go by that, then I believe there will be a solution to most of the problems that we as a country are facing. So we always try to understand these young people, the importance of the Constitution, the importance of the law, which you said. And another thing that you said, with your interaction, with your dealing with the political masters, as you just now responded to one of the questions. So till the time we are sure that to whichever position we are working, if we are sure that we are on the right track, we are on the right path, we are going by the Constitution, we are going by the law, we are going by the ultimate interest of the people, then obviously there should be no yielding on the issue, on the extent that you would have taken. This is something which we all need to learn from you. And I'm really thankful to you for the kind of input that you have given to us all, not only to the student, but to the teachers as well who are there in this session. And I think since this whole program will be on the YouTube, so and this time also this is live on the Facebook, so not many people must be watching it. And after that, when it will be on the YouTube, then obviously many more will be watching it, and many more inspirations, much more inspiration will be there on the issues on which most of us is stuck sometime. And you have given very, very vividly the answers to all such points wherein the role of an individual, the role of a professional, the role of a student, the role of a teacher is defined. So I'm really thankful to you, Mr. Amod Kanth. Thank you.
Thanks to you. Again, thanks to you. You can always access me on the website prayaschildren.org. My numbers, mobile number, etc., all is available. Youngsters can always contact me. You can always contact me.
We would also like to I mean, whichever way it's possible, if you can suggest to bring our students to Prayas so that they can themselves see how the things are happening on the ground, and then they can decide to make some or the other contribution, whichever way they can.
Please come over, and all your faculty, all your students can come. We have got many, many centers, quite spread out, quite, they are spacious. You can come and sit, we can have discussions, you can see the places. Thank you very much once again. Great time.
The first impression that comes to our mind about any college: tall buildings, big classrooms, large lobby areas, thick books, IT labs, assignments, class tests, and projects. Nothing besides that. Every hour, minute, second spent here help us carving and shaping our persona, cultivating innovative mindsets for the challenging world. Learning is a lifelong process. Sharing knowledge, inculcating values of life, spark the innovative horizons of mind. Fun and frolic is the nature of every nook and corner here. A daily dose of thrill we are sure to get here.